we're down here on Dauphin Island, the Gulf Coast of Alabama, and we're here to look at shell mounds. Now, why are we down in Alabama? Well, because it's November, and up in Michigan, it's cold as shit. And you know, Michigan summers almost make it bearable enough to deal with the fact that there's no culture, there's no talent, there's no music, there's no art, there's no history, there's no good food. Summers make it almost bearable. But when November hits and you got to deal with all that bullshit and the skies are gray and it's cold as fuck, well, I got to get the hell out of there. So here we are at Indian Shell Mound, Dauphin Island. Now, this is part of the Mississippian culture, and the thing is that the mound builders used whatever materials were available to them. So that's why you see great earthworks north of here in places like Cahokia. And down here, well, there's not a lot of stone, and the ground's pretty porous. But one thing you have a shit ton of is oysters. So after steaming and eating the oysters, they use the shells to make mounds.
Yep, it's a shell mound. So what is a shell mound? Well, it's kind of a trash heap, but a trash heap with purpose. Shell mounds, or middens, are literally the discarded shells of the oyster after preparing them for a meal. The folks down here, like the Calusa and the Pensacola, depended on the oyster as a primary food source during seasonal visitations to coastal areas. Steaming the oyster under mats of seaweed, they were eaten then and there or dried and smoked for preservation, and the discarded shells were tossed into a pile. Year after year, meal after meal, these piles grew to become humongous mounds. These shell middens were used to reshape the landscape. Shell mounds formed channels, contained ponds, were ceremonial centers, and there are even artificial islands entirely made of middens.
So this is a very modest, small site, probably mainly just used for coming down and fishing. But since it was the Mississippians, or people influenced by the Mississippians, actually I should get into that because the names that we give these people really aren't describing any single tribe or persons. It more applies to describing a sphere of influence or a cultural practice, like death metal. It's not just Swedish people. We're into death metal too, so it's more of just a subscription to a series of ideas, but it was probably a lot of different people from different places coming together with the same thing on their mind. And in the case of the Mississippian culture, it was building mounds. So this was a place where they came and fished and ate, but still it was a place of importance. So they built this kind of half ring around a natural spring and built a couple mounds where it seems that perhaps the chief or the tribal leader lived or sat during important moments. And you can see all around me, the amount of overgrowth is just, insane at this point because we're almost in the tropics here. So of course it's going to get overgrown completely very quickly and everything's been weathered away. But if you look closely, you start to realize everything is a ridge, everything is a mound, and it's completely made of shells. Let's take a look. Look at that. They're everywhere because it's a shell mound.
Dauphin Island, another name I'm probably mispronouncing, like pretty much every other settlement in the Americas, is a settlement that developed over time. Hunter-gatherers first began occupying the site with temporary fishing camps around 4,500 years ago, and it was used as such by varying tribes and people until about 1,000 years ago when the site became distinctly Mississippian, when the shell middens were constructed. All in all, 6 middens were built on the site, with the largest being 50 feet tall and having a large bowl-like depression in its center. These middens of varying size surely represented the varying strata existing within Mississippian culture, the tallest shell mounds being reserved for the most important people in the tribe, such as chiefs and priests, and the whole of the midden site serving as a gathering center or ceremonial complex for peoples of many nations and tribes converging upon the area. Just imagine all the fantastic oyster feasts these Mississippians must have had here. Yum, yum.